So the council meeting for Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021 will come to order, and I have 7:04. Mark that down. First order of business this evening is to do the Pledge of Allegiance. So we can do that. From there, everyone should be able to see the flag. And we'll start. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now move on to roll call for the council meeting. I'm not sure what Betty did here, but I think
you want me to run it
out. Mr. Antel,
Present.
Mr. Fenn,
Present.
Mr. Polyak,
here.
Mrs. Miller,
Here.
Mrs. Davis,
Here.
and who did I miss here? Mr. Barco.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have all 6 members of the council present. Yeah, tonight's agenda, I think what she did is she must have copied and pasted this and I didn't look at it. And she's moved on to just stuck a few things in here, but the next order of business is we need to approve the agenda as presented to this council for this meeting on March 23rd, 2021. So I need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to,
Thank you, Mr. Antel. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Heather Davis. Okay, so let's do this. So we'll go Mr. Antel,
yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Barco,
Yes.
Mr. Antel.
Yes.
Already called. Mr. Fenn, I knew it was
Yes.
the one Ron, and Don Polyak.
Yes.
Okay, so we've approved the minutes or approved the agenda for tonight's meeting. Next order of business is to approve the minutes of the February 9th and February 23rd council meetings. And you should have both of those in your packet. We'll send out to you.
Yeah,
Anyone who wants to make a motion on that? Or anybody have any changes to that?
I'll make a motion to accept them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fenn. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Antel.
Point of order.
Okay. All right,
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
just a point of order. I was absent at the Tuesday, February 23rd.
Okay.
Marshall, do you see any issues with me voting to approve minutes when I was absent on the one meeting, if we're batching these?
Just abstain from it.
Yeah, you can abstain.
I'd have to abstain too. I was not there either.
That's okay.
Okay.
We can record them
Alright.
that way. It's both as abstentions.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Barco,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Polyak,
I'll abstain.
and Mrs. Davis.
And I will abstain.
All right, 2 abstentions. All right. All right, so minutes are approved for February 9th and February 23rd. The next thing I appear to not have on the agenda here is the open forum. So I'm going to ask Mr. Polyak at this point, do we have anyone who is asked to address this council?
No, but I'd like to remind members of the public that they are fully welcome to go into the Q&A or into the chat and and just put your name, address, and then you can be called on potentially by the mayor. And at this time, there are no one is asking to be heard.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Poliak. All right, in cases, we'll move on to the ordinances for the evening. The first ordinance we have is ordinance 2021-3-3, which is an ordinance amending codified ordinance sections 961.01 titled Rules and Regulations and Declaring an Emergency. This is the second reading. So let me pull that up here in case anyone has, we will go ahead first and do a suspension of the 3 reading rule, so we may consider this. Need a motion to do so.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules for consideration.
Mr. Poliak, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, that was Mrs. Miller, right?
It was
Okay.
me,
Oh, it was who?
Ron.
Oh, it was Ron, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm looking at the yellow box. I didn't hear who was in. The yellow box was Ron, Mrs. Miller's, but I'm not sure why. All right, so we have a motion made by Mr. Poliak, seconded by Mr. Antel. Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
and Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Okay. Now, since that has passed, we can go ahead and accept the motion to adopt ordinance 2021-3-3. Do we have someone making a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Poliak?
I'll
Do we have a-
second.
I'll second, but I would like some discussion.
Okay, is that good with you, Ron Antel?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Janet? Okay. Janet is a second. All right. Discussion on this. So this is updating the title Rules and Regulations is necessary to maintain and update the village's codified ordinances to properly address the needs of the village of Boston Heights, its employees, and its residents. So this is updating of rules for the Boston Heights village and in the parks and recreation rules and regulations updated. And you have attached to that, we did last time. You know what? Let's see here, but we went through mainly with the COVID and that, we had to update some rules at the park, the post the signs for social distancing, different things like that. So is everyone good with going ahead and approving this tonight, or do you want to move it to a third reading?
I was of the, I don't have it in front of me because it's on, I would have to leave my laptop in order to, it would be on my laptop, which I'm talking to you on right now.
Okay,
There was a section in the, there was a section that was talking about, the section about the park. It talked about the, it was a part that was talking about you had to fish with a license and you couldn't use rafts and.
right.
On
Well, those are all things that have been in the rules of the park for a long time.
So then you're adding, okay, so then
We're adding
there's the,
things about the COVID. We're adding
there was
things
this-
about the COVID.
okay, so you didn't change anything about the part where it
We
was
left
like,
other parts in there that still are pertinent to the park, like alcoholic beverages are not permitted. Walking of dogs should be on a leash, things like that.
right,
Those
okay,
rules are
immoral,
still
it was immoral, immoral behavior, was that what?
So
I'm trying to-
maybe what I should do after we pass this, whether it's tonight or at the next meeting, In the next newsletter going out, I probably should send out for everyone in the village the rules of the park in case, over the years, they've sort of forgotten.
Well, it's sunset to sun, it was sunrise to sunset, the park was
Right.
open. I mean, those things have been,
Dusk
They
to
did-
dawn, yeah.
the
dawn to
wording-
dusk, right.
the wording, it just seemed like it just seemed like maybe we needed to revisit that, some of the wording in there, maybe the
Mhm.
loud voices or clamor or something that I don't have, like I said, I don't have it in front of me, but I mean, how old, when was the last time we,
Updated
maybe
that.
when, yeah, I mean,
Well,
it's
you
not,
know,
it's not critical, I'm just asking it's more of a query, I'm asking a question, it just,
Mhm.
as we come out
Well,
of,
and I think the fiscal officer sent that out to everyone to say, take a look at this, are the changes you want to do. They kind of went through with the park, a couple of the park board people, and updated certain areas that they knew that they needed, and they didn't change other parts that was there. Now, if council feels they want to do that, that's up to them. We certainly could do one of two things, either pass it as it is and then amend it, or we could put it to a third reading, and if you look at it, make those suggestions at the next reading or before them so that we can get them out to the whole council to review, and then put that amendment into the park regulations.
so, okay, so
What,
can you just read me the beginning of the ordinance? Can you just read me what the title is?
an ordinance amending codified ordinance section 961.01 titled Rules and Regulations and declaring an emergency. Would you want me to read further?
No.
Because it's.
Well, then how is this,
One of
are
the
you saying this
whereas
is,
says it is in the best interest and safety of the residents of the Village of Boston Heights to amend codified ordinance 961.01 regarding the Parks and Recreation rules and regulations within the Village of Boston Heights. And then there's a addendum sheet that shows you Exhibit A, that shows you all those. We didn't attach that to this packet tonight, but it was attached in the first reading. So if you have that sheet, you have it with you. I don't particularly have it. I thought they redlined the areas that were added, but I'm not sure right now because I don't have that sheet in front of me. So what would this?
so my confusion is, I heard you saying something about COVID language?
Yes, we had a COVID language, which
To-
was the distancing in the pavilion and the distancing around the pool
Okay,
and any of the playgrounds and things like that. We have to
gotcha.
put that COVID language in, which we added to a lot of different things,
Okay,
meetings in the village hall and things like that.
okay. Thank you. That's part of the clarification.
Okay.
Thank you for your explanation.
Does anyone else have questions on this? No? Okay. So we have a motion made by Mr. Poliak, seconded by Mrs. Miller. Should I go ahead and call the roll? All right. Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes,
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenn.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes, becomes ordinance 2021-3-3. And as I said, in the next newsletter, I think it'd behoove us to do that. And also post maybe down in the pavilion what these updated rules and regulations are. We usually do post it on the wall by the kitchen. So, all right, that motion is carried and passed. We will now move on to ordinance 2021-3-4. First reading, it is an ordinance expressing the intent of the Village of Boston Heights to scrap an unneeded, obsolete, and unfit vehicle and declaring an emergency. In order to consider this, we first need to suspend the 3 reading rule. Do I have a motion to do so?
I'll make a motion to suspend.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, I'll take roll call. Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis. Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. Fenn.
Yes.
Okay. Suspension is carried. I now ask for a motion to adopt ordinance 2021-3-4.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Poliak. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Fenn. Okay, for those of you who don't know, this is, we had put on auction several pieces of equipment last year. One of the things was the old Crown Victoria police car that we had. It did not sell. We tried it again. It did not sell. We didn't have any bids. So we're going to look at scrapping it and we'll find out what the scrap value is. If somebody is interested in buying it, we could sell it for that scrap value, but other than that, it has to go for the scrap value. Okay? So that's the vehicle in question. All right, are there any questions on that?
Bill, I've seen in the paper where you could donate your car to a organization or something. Can the village do that with that car? Can they just?
Well,
No.
you can, but the thing is, we're required to list it in auction, or we can, if you give them the approval, we can go ahead and scrap it out.
Okay. I'm just saying is they asked for, to donate a car to an organization.
Right. Well,
It
the
could
thing
go
is, Bob,
for
it's
what?
always as we've done with dump trucks and everything, we have to get whatever value for the residents of this village.
Okay,
We have to bring in whatever kind of money we can get for that.
okay.
Okay?
But Bob, I think that was a really great question.
Yeah.
I think that's a great question because I think it could be, thank you for asking that. It was a interesting take.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I will take the roll call. Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes,
Mr. Antel.
Yes.
Motion carries, becomes ordinance 2021-3-4. We'll now go to the resolution of the evening. And in the title there, you might notice is a word missing or a letter missing, L. So I'd like to interject that, a resolution between the O and the U there. And it is resolution 2021-2-13. This is the second reading. Is a resolution on a renewal tax levy exceeding the 10 mil limitation for the general construction, reconstruction, resurfacing, and repair of streets, roads, and bridges for the village required under section 5705.19G of the Ohio Revised Code. I first need a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule to consider this.
Also move.
Thank you, Mr. Fenn. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Bartko. Okay, I will take the roll call now. Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes,
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
and Mr. Poliak.
Yes.
Okay, the suspension of the rules has carried. I would ask for a motion to adopt resolution 2021-2-13.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Thank you, Mr. Antel. Do we have a second?
And I'll second it, but I have a question.
Okay, Mr. Barco seconds. All right. Floor is open for questions. Go ahead.
This levy is the it goes on for voting, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. Yeah, this is a renewal levy.
Right.
This is a renewal of the road levy that we have that every 5 year comes up for renewal. Okay, other questions?
I would just note that the dollar amount that will be generated by the levy is listed there in the resolution itself.
Right. So,
The county fiscal officer sent that back to us. It's listed under section 3.
right. And it says that in section 3. of
200,
the,
it's $230,000 is what this generate.
$230,047
And change.
Correct.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Okay.
We're just gonna throw that out for everyone's edification.
Thank you, Marshall. All right. We have a motion made by Mr. Antel, seconded by Mr. Barco. Are there any other questions? Seeing none. Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Barco,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
and Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Okay, resolution passes, becomes resolution 2021-2-13. All right. Is there anything for old business? Anything for new business? All right, I know of no reason for an executive session, so I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, then will we do all the committee reports and mayor's report? We'll just
I
run
think we
those
should,
in.
like we usually do in finance, I think we should.
Perfect.
Okay,
Sounds good.
so who's making the motion?
Make a motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis. And who's seconding that?
I'll
happy-
second.
Three of them.
Okay, Mr.
Whoever, it
Fenn, I'll
doesn't
take
matter.
Mr. Fenn. Okay,
That's
all
fine.
right. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. So we can count. Let's see. Okay, everyone did. So it's 6-0. We stand adjourned at 7:27.
Hmm.
Okay,
All right.
and I will stop this.
Does anybody need a break, or could we just go in? It's a pretty light agenda for finance. There isn't even any.
Keep going.
Okay. All right. Good. Mr. Mayor, let me know when we're ready to record.
Okay, hold on a minute. Yep, we're ready to record on the recorder, and of course, the oh,
Okay. Well, here we go.
Okay.
I'm going to call to order the Village of Boston Heights Finance Meeting Tuesday, March 23rd. We're going to call it to order at 7:30. And for the record, all members of council are present. All members of Finance Committee are present in in finance. We do have a light agenda. We're going to mainly go through reports. I want to make sure that Mr. Gorg too, I know that we didn't go through the engineer's report on council, so we're going to go ahead and go through
Right.
your report as well. The agenda is going to go through mayor's report, council's reports on committees. We'll go through Brian, and if Marshall has anything to report as well, because it doesn't look like there is any pending legislation coming up for the next council meeting at this time. So, Mayor, go ahead and take the floor if you want to provide the mayor's report. That'd be great.
okay. Well, I don't really, this is two weeks past the council meeting that we had earlier this month. I just want to report Brandywine Road has started work. They have done some grubbing and brush cutting, and I don't think any major tree removal along the right of way. They put in dry pipes, some of them, and they're working on the ditching along Brandywine between Old 8 and almost to Beverly. So that project is started. That will be going on in the next month and a half there. So I believe, is that right, Brian? The finish date is sometime in, well, maybe even later than May, right? I mean, June.
Sorry about that. Actually, it's technically it's August 27th. Is
Oh, I
when
think we'll be way done.
well, I think we'll be done unless we have some disastrous summer where we get a ton of rain or something. But weather depending, I figure we
Okay.
get done well before then.
Yeah, I've had a couple calls from residents on the ditching so far, so I'll talk with you on that later, or probably Thursday when you're here, or
Okay.
Friday or whatever. So, okay. Other than that, we don't have, you know, the Memorial Day service is going to be moving forward for Memorial Day. The American Legion from Hudson has called me and we've arranged 4 flags for the Cemetery Association to go ahead and put those out just before Memorial Day. Those are coming in. Other than that, I really don't have much to report on.
Okay.
And Betty's not here, so we'll just have to move forward, I guess.
Does anybody have any questions for the mayor? Seeing none, does anybody have any questions for Betty that we would put on the record? And I'd be happy to forward them over to her without her providing a report. And I'll talk to her about potentially at least providing a written report in her absence of if she's not able to make the finance meeting. Okay, we'll go ahead and move into council committee reports. Does anybody have want to volunteer to provide a council committee report? Does anybody have any updates that you'd want to cascade to the rest of council? All right. Seeing none.
I just had a question. Do we have anything new happening with BZA, planning on BZA? Anything new?
Let's see, the deadline for that was on the 18th. And I think we did not get any applications in that are going to go before planning or BZA at this moment. There was some talk there would be something coming in, but I have not received anything here in the office. I don't know if Arthur has anything. If he
No.
has, we will go ahead and circulate it. Do
He
you know,
has not
Brian?
yet.
You have
No,
not.
we didn't. Arthur and I
We
did not
received
receive
nothing.
anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say chances are we're not going to have a meeting unless there was something continued from what the Boston Mills project. Is there anything going to come up for that? Not
No.
really, right?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Does
Is there any-
satisfy?
What's that?
Is there any more,
Go ahead, Janet.
has there been any more movement or information on the appeals for the Norwood nuisance abatement?
There has not been a formal appeal. You may recall, I think we discussed it at the last meeting, that the Board of Zoning Appeals did hear the Nuisance Abatement Board appeal. The Nuisance Abatement Board ruling was affirmed and modified. The landowner, Maplewood Lodging, has, I believe, until March 29th to file a formal appeal to the Court of Common Pleas.
Mm-hmm.
As the mayor indicated, we had heard that there might be an applicant for that property for a potential site plan, a potential rezoning. We were actually never given the exact details. We just heard that they might be submitting, there might be a new company submitting something, and that that has not materialized.
that hasn't materialized, and Marshall, I forwarded something over to you yesterday. I believe I had another call from Minnesota from another company interested that restores things, and they want to know. And I said, well, I had sort of told them what was going on with the building that had gone through the nuisance abatement board and all that. And he asked that we give him a report on the structure finding that we did that, and the health department report. So I asked him to send me a request for that, and I forwarded that on to you. So I'm not sure what we can give him. The Safe Built report and the health department report were the only things really asked for. So I don't know how interested he is, but of course nothing has been presented other than that letter for the records request.
Hey, Janet.
Yeah, I have a question in another direction, if you would indulge me. Do we have any, or are we getting any of the studies or the reports on the pure development property, like the Army Corps of Engineers, Summit Soil and Water? Have those come in, and where are we with the tree cutting?
I can discuss that during my engineer's report.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Brian, why
That's
don't we
it.
go ahead and segue right in, and you want to provide your report, please?
Sure. So at the OPWC level, Brandywine phases 2 and 3 ranked 2 and 3 in small government. So I will be applying for small government. That's for communities under 5,000 in population. So it's a next stage to apply. We did score higher than we did last year, but there was a number of applicants, meaning Akron had like 10 applications. So I wish there was a limit to how many you could apply, but Akron seemed to get majority of the money this time around at the district level, but fortunately we can apply at the small government level, and we'll know those findings in May, how we do in phases 2 and 3 for Brandywine Road. And then I'll just jump to Janet's questions, because I actually just got an email back today. So number 1, the tree clearing is being held off until after Indiana bat season, October 1st. The main reason, they do not have their Army Corps permits yet to clear as well as fill in those wetlands. Those reports, that whole application process takes anywhere from 6 to 9 months. So they decided, rather than clear some of the trees now before April 1st, that they're just going to wait, get their permits, and do everything after October 1st. So you will not see anything till after that date for tree clearing.
October 1st, you said.
October 1st, which is
Okay.
the end of Indiana bat season, is the end of September.
Thank you. Thank you. Wait till we get permits.
So the next thing, so we are still, their actual traffic study, we've had several meetings on that report that they had originally had submitted, that we did our review and needed some additional information, and I just received that we should be receiving the additional information that we would need to be satisfied per the comments that we had. So we'll be getting that response letter shortly for the traffic study. And then secondly, the other thing we're waiting on is the actual improvement plans themselves, which is, so I was told that that should be forthcoming soon, but was not given a specific date. But he's basically hoping by the end of April that, and they have those plans ready. They're just waiting for the developer to allow them to submit those. I guess they're just making sure nothing changes, I think, from the traffic study is what I was told. So
Can you just define improvement plans for me?
So
What does that encompass?
Improvement plans encompasses the entire site, meaning utilities, the site layout, landscaping, details that would go along with that, stormwater reports, stormwater pollution plans, zoning, anything related to the zoning. Also, probably more information on more of the building exterior, the signage, pretty much everything that you can to be able to build the, the facility, the DCM4 facility distribution center.
So you're waiting for the actual improvement plans, and you expect them at the end of April?
They said that's the latest.
Based on some,
so that we
based on some addition, this is based on some additional questions that you had for them about it?
No, this has been internal on their end, and I think part of it was we had some red flags, not necessarily like red flags, yellow flags on some items with the traffic study. And we just want to make sure they address all those questions, that there's not something that would come afterwards with maybe having to upgrade a signal or add even another lane or something like that. Because at the moment there is going to be a turn lane added on the Heinz Hill, but we want to make sure that nothing else based on the traffic study will need to be upgraded.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Anyone else have any other questions for me?
Yeah, have we heard anything from Wendy's? Are they going to build, not build, or?
Speak of the devil too, just got that email, which I forwarded to the, so Wendy's decided to hold off again till 2022. So I told them, so they have until April 22nd to get a request of an extension of their permits. So I informed, and then again, they would have to get started again in, before April 2022. So, but they did just send engineer sent an email to me literally a couple days ago. Because I've been asking them for the last probably month about starting, and then they finally decided that they're gonna wait. So,
Okay.
I have a little further information on that. Not positive that they would give, but many contractors right now are holding back because materials are not available. Some things are back ordered for months. And I know that people building the house down here or wanting to start the first house on Boston Mills Road had said that the cost of the lumber had gone up in about 3 months, had gone up about $30,000 house. And the availability of it is not there. So we don't know for sure if that's the thing. When I was talking with the real estate people, they had sort of indicated that to me for Wendy's, but here again, we don't know that for sure, but we do know that it's held things up, and I'm kind of wondering if that's the reason why the Pure Development Project decided to not rush that in, and try and do some parts that they could jump ahead on, because they too couldn't really start that building without having all the materials. I heard that, like, for instance, drywall has more than doubled in price per sheet. So hopefully all that's going to change here in a few months, because, a lot of these factories have been shut down because of the COVID. And so their stuff is back ordered, but I don't know. And that's what little insight that I had gathered by calling around a little bit and finding out that, Wendy's themselves, they didn't tell you that, right, Brian? They didn't say the reason they were waiting?
no, not at all. They just said they just decided to.
I tried to find out a little more research by going through the fellow who deals directly with the company, and he had mentioned that materials were kind of scarce, and so maybe he knew that, and I guess he said some other ones around the country delayed also.
I'm just real quick to add on. I did talk to, Pure Development. I think the one reason that they were I think if they would have had their wetland permits in place, they would have done it. But knowing they'd have to do it twice, that he did mention to me the cost of trying to do all the excavation and trying to, you know, protect the wetlands and everything like that. And plus they were only going to clear cut. They weren't going to do any stump removal at that time. So they would rather just do all the stump removal, tree cutting, wetlands clearing and everything at once. And he did mention that the cost of trying to do both of that twice was another factor of why they decided to hold off.
Wow. Okay.
I have a, are we going, are we, I have another question.
Go ahead, Janet.
I have two comments. One is, I would like a, is there, can you give me an update on the village's ability to keep up with the raises that we were given our employees, our village employees, and the status of the replacement of the police cars? I know that we got a new fire truck, and I just wondered what the status was on the replacement of our police vehicles.
Okay. As we know, the fire truck was purely a Valley purchase, but, you know, we're willing to help them with that. But the police car is at the dealer, and
great.
put the decals on. This was last week. Turns out the decals were the old decals.
Huh.
They got the wrong ones in, so they had to reorder those. But yeah, that should be here in the next week or so, I'm suspecting, probably by the end of the month. So, as far as, what was your other question, Janet?
About with raises for the village.
Okay, well, that's something we're looking at. We're seeing what, you know, with the COVID, with the pandemic and everything last year. Yeah, we know we gave substantial raises like 2 years ago. So we're looking to see what we can do with that, and within the range that the council has set for me to work, you know, for us to work within. So
there's been some impact from, well, there's been some impact from there's been some changes in our income from with the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But also are you seeing the stimulus money coming in, or you know, how is that impacting? How is it impacting how you're able to pay your employees, yourself included?
Well, we could only use that stimulus money for certain things.
For
police or fire, we don't really pay fire, but we do pay police, so we can use that for salaries there because they're responding to the, you know, in the time of COVID and that. So we're looking at that and seeing if there are any other stimulus packages. There is a new one they're talking about that's being released. We have not been told yet how much of that we might be able to use for something like raises. So right at this point, I can't say that we can do that, but we certainly will look at it.
To support our police department?
Well, the support, yeah.
Or the safety services
the police,
in
the road
general.
department, and you know, look at that.
Okay.
We've done, you know, the police department has not given me evaluations yet. I have evaluated the our you know, our well, Charlie evaluates the road department, so I just evaluate our workers here in the village hall and our chief and our road superintendent. So, but yeah, we have those ready, and that's part of the way we do raises. We review the evaluations of each one of the department heads. So, okay. Other questions?
Mayor, just one more thing to add, sort of going off Janet, which I heard from, we call Mr. Dave Kroc, Mr. Ohio, Mr. Kentucky, and Mr. Indiana now because he's in charge of all three states.
Oh my gosh.
But
It's from his humble beginnings here at Boston Heights.
Yes. Well, I
For
think
the
he had a
record.
couple of, I think he worked at a couple other local municipalities too.
Wow.
Yes, we can claim him if we want, sure.
But we had an internal conversation that we actually heard that some of that money can also be used a little bit towards infrastructure, specifically stormwater and sanitary sewers. So we did hear that as well, that that would be also another avenue.
Right, because we did have a meeting, Brian and I actually did meet with a quarterly meeting with the DSSS and trying to see how we're going to proceed with the 5 roads that we're trying to run sewer down, sanitary sewer. The first one was going to be Wolcott. Mike Vinay, the head of that department, has again reassured us that, you know, they would have some money to put into that, but the limit was like $50,000. And of course, that is going to do the project, and Brian's going to have to put together under OPWC, you know, a bid package or a grant package for that. So, but yeah, perhaps we'll be able to use some of that towards that, Brian. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. That
Okay,
what I
good.
heard was, you know, part of the money we'll get this year, the other part we'll get next year, and that we have to use all the money by 2024. So we'll find out more, but we definitely heard of, you know, sanitary sewers. So that could be an option of using a little bit of that
Right.
money.
We'll have to look at what the restrictions on that are. They
Right. So once we
might
get
have
all
to-
that,
Might have to service like 50,000 people or something. You never know, because some of these things have, you know, different guidelines with them.
that is true.
Only servicing a dozen people on a street, that may or may not be a usable item. We may have to look at the whole project, which would service about 70 people maybe. That's what the water project service, so that's about the same, but we'll keep you informed on that once we find out if we can use that, because without that stimulus money in there to sort of replace what DSSS was going to use, we are going to be pretty hard pressed to be able to do that.
Okay, does anybody have any more questions for either the mayor or Brian? All right, seeing none, we do not have any pending legislation. Marshall, did you have a report, or did you have anything that needs to be on council's radar here for the next couple weeks?
No, the only thing that I wanted to add was there will be some legislation for our next meeting. I sent it over to Betty today. Is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of some CR2 and AEDs up to $14,000. It was requested by the mayor and Betty, and we put that together and would ask that that be on the agenda next time around.
I saw that. Okay, thank you. All right, everybody. Let's see. I think that concludes the business, unless anybody has any old or new business that they want to bring up here in finance for consideration, or seeing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn the finance meeting at about 7:50.
Everyone.
All right, everybody have a great night. Be safe.
Good night.
Look forward to seeing everybody in person.
Yep.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, thank you.
All right. Good night.
Bye.
Mayor,
Bye.
I'm gonna move you back to the host.
Thank you.
All right, you're good, and I'm signing off.